Hi, everyone. So I just had therapy and I had my second EMDR session, and I just wanted to talk about that really quick. But before I do, you may have remembered that a while back I mentioned Alicia found 3 autism and EMDR articles, and that I was going to read them and do an episode about those. I'm not going to do that because I totally forgot that while I do love research articles and I understand them just fine, I cannot regurgitate them to save my life. I'm not going to make you sit through that. Yeah, no. So I will write a note, and later on today or tomorrow I'll add links if you wanted to, because I think I still have the links to the PDFs or whatever. If you wanted to go read those. But I'm just going to talk about the one I just had today. So it was my second. And when I went in there, I had some questions about the last EMDR session that we did. And Tia was able to figure out pretty quickly that I was trying to find out the right way to do EMDR, which is exactly what I was doing. And good on her for catching that. And she's like, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You just... you follow the light and you go where your brain takes you, and you don't have to overthink it. And so the conversation helped me relax a little bit because, it's just so, I don't like to try new things in front of other people for obvious reasons, like my fucking bitch of a mother. Well, obvious reasons to me, maybe not to you, I don't know. But it went well. I still left wondering if I did it right. Oh my God. I did not say that to Tia though. But it was so fucking weird. We did the light thing where you follow it back and forth with your eyes, and you can also hold the little vibrating things in your hands. And last time that bothered me, and I didn't do it again this time because I told her it's either the light or the little hand things. I can't do both. So we just went with the light. And it was like a minute of me following the light back and forth with my eyes, and then we would stop. And then, thank goodness, she doesn't tell me to breathe, breathe, as if I have just experienced this emotion. So she knows not to do that now. So she just, when the light goes away, I tell her what came up, if anything, and then she writes it down, and then I go back and I do the light. It's just a very weird experience. I know it's a form of therapy. I'm used to talk therapy. I'm not used to this, light business, but my brain did take me lots of places, and all of those places involved my shitty mother. I wasn't really upset during session, and I told Tia I'm open to this. I'm not trying to hold back. I'm not afraid of whatever is going to come up. I really am not. At this point in my life, I can't be surprised by much. So it's not like I'm trying to not tap into feelings, but throughout the session, it was more of an informational thing to me. I was watching the light, light go back and forth, and then it stopped. And then I had this memory that had popped into my mind, and every single one had to do with her. And a lot of them were memories out in public. And a lot of them were me in elementary school. So my brain kind of just wanted to hang around that time period for a while. And the memories that came up were a lot of road trips. The first session I did with Tia with EMDR, it was Diamond Head, where I wanted to push that bitch off. That's what popped up. And then this time there's more road trips, and I did not like our road trips because she used to, she didn't like doing them. She didn't like doing road trips. And I remember, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. Basically she took us, we as a family, my brother, me, my parents, went on these road trips because she thought that that's what you were supposed to do as a family. Now, if this bitch isn't autistic, you know what I mean? And in case I didn't say this before or clearly enough, I do not believe anymore that borderline personality disorder exists. I think that is just code for autism. And my mother is definitely autistic, but she's just an autistic fucking bitch. And we would go on these road trips, and she was miserable every fucking time. And when I was hovering around these elementary school years, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those years, it was during the time when I was very confused, because the older I got, like once I figured out how to fucking start talking, I don't remember how that happened, but I figured it out. And as soon as my mouth started moving and like things were making sense, my mother did not like it. And it was always me that she didn't like hearing opinions and shit from. She didn't care if my brother said stuff. It was always me. So we would go to, like, in Japan, there was this caves called Rosindo Caves. Like, it's a cave. It had stalactites and whatever the fuck those other things are called. And I remember we were down in the cave, and I wasn't having fun because all she was doing was helicopter parenting, like, hold on to the rail, hold on to the rail. And there was no joy at all in her being, like, in her entire body, like, no joy, nothing, no happiness radiated off of that bitch. I always wondered, like, when we did these road trips, why do we have to do these? Because they didn't seem fun to me. And I had thought that, like, why do people go on road trips if this is what they feel like? Because I thought everybody felt, like, shitty like I did. Because, your parents are like, oh, we're going to go visit this place. And then you get excited about it. And then you get there. And then, like, my mother was just miserable all the time. And I don't know why my dad put up with her. Well, probably the same way Alicia puts up with me. But whatever. At least I changed a little bit. I don't know. I can't say the same for her, but I haven't talked to that bitch in like a decade. But anyways, there was that. And then another memory popped up where I was in like first grade and we were at school and it was like Secret Santa, and like it's supposed to be happy times around the holidays, especially as a kid. And my mom would do a lot of the volunteering shit. And like it was always hit or miss with her because she was at that school a lot. Like, she must have needed, like, validation or attention or something. I don't know. But she was volunteering for all kinds of stuff. Mostly in my brother's class. So, surprise there. But during that Secret Santa one, I remember I wanted to go off with my friends because they were going to go somewhere and do something fun. I don't remember what that was. And there was going to be a teacher there, so it was all supervised, and I wanted to go. And there was no reason why I couldn't, except my mother was like, no, you're going to sit here. And she was, like, doing some Secret Santa bullshit at, like, a table where people were, like, coming and buying erasers and Santa pens and bullshit like that for their Secret Santa. I don't know. But I remember, like, I was the only kid there really sitting and doing nothing, and I didn't think that was very fair. And like, it's like she didn't trust me by myself, and she even told me this like multiple times, I don't trust you. Another memory that came up was when we lived on base housing, and we lived in a building where there was 4 units all next door, like I don't know what that's called, and we were in like one of the units, like B unit, it was A, B, C, D, and then my mom wanted to go down to unit D. I know it sounds so stupid, like unit, but whatever, that's what they were referred to. She wanted to go down to unit D because there was like the crazy people there. I even remember their last name, I won't say it, but like they were fucking crazy. Like their kids were dirty, their kids had no manners, were just like wild, and like the mom was, oh my God, just fucking crazy. And it was the dad that was in the military, because there was no way that she would have been able to be in the military and like not get kicked out. That bitch was crazy. I don't know what my mother was doing down there, but like at least once a week, like I had to go down with her, and my brother would be in the house sometimes, and sometimes he wouldn't. And even if he was, she would make just me come with her and say, like, I don't trust you there at home, but you trust my 1.5 years younger brother? That, like, what the fuck? And so I had to go there, and I remember feeling trapped and confused and angry. And it was just, like, memory after memory after memory of us, like, being out in public somewhere. Like, really the only one that came up that was at home was, like, during Christmas when we were decorating the tree. My mother was very specific about where stuff went. Like, like 2 red ornaments can't be that close to each other. Like, she was very fucking controlling about that Christmas tree. And always yelled at me about where I was placing stuff, but never yelled at my brother. He could put stuff wherever he wanted to, and he would never get yelled at. It was always me. It was like the story of my life. And that was just such a sad feeling. And I was also confused. And basically, it was like all of these memories popped up during the years where I was like, why is she acting this way? I never knew which version of her I was going to get. I didn't know if she was going to be like nice to me out in public or not, or what. Like, she was just so unexpected. And after those elementary years, like, I think I started catching on to like her mannerisms, like her tone of voice, her facial expressions, her body language, and I started piecing things together so that I was able to predict like moods, and which is why I'm very good at this stuff. And I wish I didn't have to have developed that ability that way, but it just is what it is. But yeah, like, I remember when younger, it's like, what the hell is going on? Like, you're getting older and you're gaining some sort of awareness, and like, it just didn't feel right in the family. And then I had thought that like all families were like this, and that like all of the road trips were boring and not fun and whatever. And then a memory popped up. There were a couple of good ones actually that didn't involve my mom. One of them was I was in like 1st or 2nd grade, and I had made a friend. We were like best friends, and I was allowed to go on my first sleepover at her house. And I remember being at her house, and her family's Korean. So it was the first time I had Korean food. It was delicious. And it was the first time I was in somebody else's home, and their family, their parents were nice and caring and kind and seemed interested in me and asked questions. And I remember thinking like, wow, what's happening here? Like, I thought parents were like, I mean, my dad, I don't factor him into really anything because he was just there. Like, when he wasn't at work, because he was a shift worker. So he did a lot of 12-hour shifts, all kinds of crazy hours. So I don't really even count him because he's not the source of my trauma. I mean, he didn't do anything helpful at all, really. And, but like, he's not the source of my trauma. She is. And I just remember standing in that kitchen at my friend's house, and her mom was cooking some food, and I didn't pick up, like, there was no negative energy, no tension. And I had this feeling of like, I was being duped. That I just remember feeling like, what the fuck? Like, is this some secret that like, these are how families are supposed to be? It was very, very confusing. And then like, as I got older and I started figuring things out and realizing that, no, I am the spawn of a crazy motherfucker. I was constantly confused and upset and sad and felt trapped and never knew what I was doing wrong. I constantly was like, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And it was a very traumatic childhood, but I don't know, like, it was just very weird how like all of those started popping up, and none of those were surprises to me. Those were ones I obviously hadn't thought about in a long time, but I don't know, it was just really interesting, like, how the brain works. And I'm hoping that EMDR helps. I think actually it is kind of helping, because the first time we did it, she asked me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning you do not feel like you're lovable, because that was like my negative belief that we centered the EMDR around. And she said on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like you really do not feel loved, and 1 being like you feel really loved. Which I thought that was a backward scale, but whatever. I picked the 10. Like, I just don't feel like I'm a lovable person. And then the other one was like feeling good enough, and I never feel like I'm enough. And that scale was like 1 to 7. 7 being you feel like you are enough, and then like 1 being like you're definitely not enough. And so the first time I answered a 10, like I said, for the first one, and a 1 for the I'm not enough. And then this time she asked me the same questions. I forgot that those were asked last time, so she referred to her notes. But this time, the part where the 1 to 10, if I feel like I'm lovable, I went to a 5. So that's like a huge drop. And I was like, woo, I feel like I'm lovable. That's cool. And then we went to the 1 to 7 scale about like, do you feel like you're enough? Where are you at with that? And I said 1. I still feel like I'm at a 1. And that was the same number I had last time. So no change there. And I don't think I talk about those things that often on this podcast, but yeah, like I struggle with feeling like I am enough. I never feel like I'm enough. I never feel like I do good enough for anything, anybody. And I know that this all comes from that fucking bitch that popped me out. I did not ask to be a part of this world, but she decided, hey, let me have unprotected sex and see what happens. And I happened, and here I am 40 fucking years later, doing great after not talking to that bitch for like almost a decade. It's been wonderful. Can't you tell? But anyways, yeah, like I know I'm on here and like I joke around and stuff, but I don't feel like I'm good enough. I have good self-esteem in some ways, but like it's just hard to explain. Like I do feel good about like my abilities to do certain things. Like I know I'm a good person and I'm kind, and like I have a good heart. But like I just don't ever feel like I'm good enough for somebody, or like, maybe like, cuz with the whole sex thing, I talked about that yesterday with the sex and the like I'm not meeting my wife's needs, and like I feel like, oh, what the fuck, like I wish I could just do everything and be everything and then like not have any problems, and that's not how life goes, but it's just a crappy feeling. And I know my mother put that there. It's like ingrained in me, and it's really hard to dig out of this one and to feel like, that 1, I'm still at a 1, and I realize I don't act like I'm at a 1. Like ever, really. Maybe I do, I don't know, but not on here. But yeah, I don't feel like I'm enough, and that's the emotional belief. The logical, rational side of me knows that I am enough, but that is still such a small part, and it doesn't even seem like it's true, because that's how much I still believe, like, that, I could be more or do more or something. So, I don't know, but that was what the second EMDR session was like, and I don't think it was bad at all. That was pretty decent. It went by pretty fast, and I felt way less anxious about it, especially when my mind traveled, because I was like, oh my God, what if my mind like just all of a sudden stops going places, and then she stops the light and she's like, did anything come up? No. Did anything come up? No. Did anything come up? No. That only happens like 3 times, the exact number of times I just said that, but like periodically. And it was a good session. I feel like I did something. I know it wasn't really like talk therapy, but I walked out of that session feeling like good. Like that's all I know how to put into words. I don't know how to explain the feeling, so hopefully you can kind of figure that one out based on the other information I have given you. But I just felt like something happened, and I did good work, and Tia's a really good therapist. And so when we do our next EMDR session, I won't feel very anxious about it at all. Like now I'm very interested and intrigued, because the mind is just really fascinating to me. So, by the way, before I end this episode, I did tell Alicia something last night. Like, I don't know if I really believe this or not, but I'm just going to say it. I told her that, like, I bet that everybody has she used the word reset button, but that was the term I was going for. I told her there was, like, this one spot, like, in your body or something, like, you just got to poke it with something, and then it'll, like, boom, like all of your trauma will just go away and your life will be perfect. And if everybody could just find that reset button and push it, this entire planet can be utopia. Hello. But then like therapists would be out of jobs and stuff, so I don't know how that would work. But I firmly believe, I don't know, there's got to be like a reset button. If somebody could just take a needle and poke me somewhere. I've had 20 tattoos. Nobody's found it yet. Maybe it doesn't exist, but a reset button would be great. But then if there were reset buttons, it wouldn't feel like I really lived a life, because I don't know. What would a life feel like if you didn't have trauma? I wonder what that feels like. When you had good parents growing up in a healthy environment, and you were supported, and had positive people to look up to, like, I wonder what that feels like. And I'll never know what that feels like, but I've always wondered. But anyways, I hope this made sense and was somewhat relatable. I don't think I'm going to do any more like episodes about EMDR and therapy unless something big comes up, but that's kind of the gist. I find it helpful. I don't know. Maybe like look into doing it or something if like you feel like whatever modality you're currently using for therapy isn't very helpful. I don't know. But anyways, thank you for listening, and goodbye.